He's crazy like Jack Bauer. His name is Forest Power. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, YouTube. It was Christmas morning, 1992, and I raced downstairs as an excited 8-year-old boy with my heart doing a break dance. Today was the day. Staring at me intriguingly was a box-shaped gift wrapped in red paper. I gnawed at it quickly and unveiled my first video games console, the Super Nintendo. That experience is one of my most treasured childhood memories, and the Super Nintendo continued to fill me with similar levels of joy for the next couple of years. 5 years down the line, and a wasted youth behind me, I'd played on some pretty awesome titles. NBA Jam was a creative basketball game that showed off the very thing that every guy that's ever worn a pair of sneakers has wanted to do. Jump 10 feet into the air and dunk a basketball like a clone of MJ himself. I also loved Star Fox, or Star Wings it was called rather over here in the UK, and thought of myself as some kind of space-age maverick as I propelled through the stars in my spacecraft. My first real love for beat-em-ups came with Mortal Kombat 1, but particularly Mortal Kombat 2. I remember back in the days before the internet, how my friends and I would huddle together at break time at school, actually discussing how to do fatalities. You couldn't just log on to the internet and type in a character's name and find out how to do their particular death move. It was a trial and error thing where you had to button bash and then furiously write them down on a piece of paper and then share them with your mates. It was exciting, exhilarating, fresh, and very, very cool. I transitioned to PlayStation not long after owning a Super Nintendo. Gran Turismo was a particular game that I was drawn to, but I've never really been a lover of cars, but I found it cool and fascinating to build your own car and continually upgrade it as you saw fit. I felt like I had a real sense of ownership over the car that I was driving. Then we moved on to some of the sports titles that I found myself interested in. Pro Evolution Soccer was one that really piqued my interest. And I love the fact that you could glide the length of the pitch like a performance-enhanced version of Lionel Messi himself and take on entire teams with just one player. Of all the games that I've listed so far, none of them would be what I would consider to be gritty and realistic, but they all have one thing in common. The gameplay was fun. That seems like a lost word in today's video game industry at times. Even now, there's an arms race on for better graphics and more customization. Just yesterday, I loaded up a Battlefield trailer and saw some pretty cool customizable features that you can perform with certain characters. And I'll level with you, the graphics looked amazing too. Every plodding step we take forward moves us an inch closer to the day that we'll not be able to distinguish the virtual world from the real one, in my opinion. But I just kept coming back to the same point. Will this game be fun? And of course the jury's out on that until Battlefield drops. My first true love for video games came pre-COD, surprisingly. Metal Gear Solid. Now, I'm sure that some of you are well aware of the storyline in Metal Gear and how it can be a bit crazy sometimes. I actually remember being lost in a sea of perplexity after completing Metal Gear Solid 2 with its post-modern ending. But I always retained this idea that the developers that made the Metal Gear Solid series, headed up by Kojima himself, had fun making that game. Can we say the same for developers these days? Everything just seems to be bigger, faster, stronger. Franchises pump out titles to satisfy demand, not to show off something that's revolutionary and fun and something that they are actually proud of. And I think that really is because video games aren't made by 5 gamers with long hair sporting Metallica t-shirts in someone's basement anymore. They're corporate for the most part, and that makes the entire damn process very, very civilized. Don't even get me started on the never-ending treasure trove of loot boxes that make most AAA games nothing more now than a series of microtransactions. Team Fortress 2 opened Pandora's box for developers to see games as a never-ending rotating door to the bank accounts of millions of people. Gone are fixed price, one-off purchases. Profit has never been more powerful in the world of video games, and it really breaks from how I used to view how games were made back in the 80s and 90s. The fun factor certainly seems to have been lost, developers being kept to deadlines and forced to push this profit-making agenda that the consumers certainly do not want. I'm often asked by the kids at school what my favourite video game is, and they naturally assume that I'm going to list some title from the last 5 or 10 years. They pretty much presume that it's going to be Call of Duty, given the success that I had on the game when it came to Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 3. But the truth is, with a gun to my head, I'd probably have to say that Mario Kart could very well be my favourite. It's simplicity embodied. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it guarantees laughs. Isn't that what video games should be about? A bit of a light-hearted relief from the aches and pains of reality. There was also a huge emphasis when it comes to Mario Kart with regards to playing with your friends and not being lost in a myriad of anonymity with online gaming and playing with people that you don't actually know. It's far more satisfying to taste success when you are racing against one of your own friends rather than killing people that you do not know online in Call of Duty. One of my favourite video game memories comes from Mario Kart, and it centres around a time when we were playing at my friend's house on a 4-player split screen game, and one of my friends, who doesn't really win that much, actually finished first in a race, jumped up with his arms aloft and said, "Yes! I have done it!" Only to find out that he still had another lap left, which meant that we all fell about the room in fits of laughter when he eventually finished second in that race. These are the types of personal memories that really resonate with video games, and they're far more precious to me than grabbing a Moab on Modern Warfare 3. So, do I actually hope that Battlefield trumps Warzone and ultimately becomes this fabled COD killer that we've been talking about seemingly for the last 10 years? I don't care either way particularly. I just want video games to start prioritising fun in the way that they used to do years ago rather than profit. I believe that if developers focused on fun and making video games a fun experience once more, they'd make more money anyway because the franchise would go on to be a bigger success. So here's hoping for the next generation of video games. And long live those indie developers that are trying to coexist in a world of huge corporate development teams. I am interested to hear what you guys think on this topic though. Are video games soulless in today's world? Or maybe you prefer them now with the birth of huge online multiplayer experiences? Drop a comment and let me know what you think in the section down below. And if you made it this far through the video, thank you very much for watching. Please drop me a like as that helps me greatly. And with that, all that's left to say is, once more, I'm Forest Power and this has definitely been emotional.